Herbert Stein, a longtime economic advisor and columnist, gave us one of the cleanest lines in policy. If something cannot go on forever, it will stop. That tiny sentence is called Stein's law, and it's a great rule of thumb for thinking about unsustainable policies. Plain meaning, if a fiscal, monetary, or economic trend is physically or economically impossible to sustain indefinitely, it won't continue forever. Something will change. That change can be gradual and policy managed, or it can be sudden and violent. Stein wasn't predicting timing. He was reminding policymakers and pundits that constraint exists, period. Laws of accounting, resource limits, investor psychology, and eventually reality enforces itself. It's a sanity check. Treat endless continuation claims with skepticism. Austrians love Stein's law because it echoes a core idea. Reality constrains plans. The economy is a network of intertemporal production plans that depends on real resources, time preferences, and truthful price signals. When policies or central banks hide scarcity by suppressing interest rates, inflating money supplies, or running persistent deficits, they let unsustainable patterns persist longer than they otherwise would. That delays the necessary reallocation, creates malinvestments, and raises the scale of correction when Stein's law finally asserts itself. So Stein's law is a warning. Policy relies on the assumption that deficits, cheap credit, or artificially propped up markets can persist forever. You're building on a lie. Reality, markets, creditors, inflation, resource limits will eventually make the lie visible. Keynesians often respond differently to unsustainable seeming trends. They'll say, if private demand collapses, public spending can replace it. If unemployment is high, run big deficits and stimulate until recovery takes hold. If rates are low and inflation's tame, bigger deficits are tolerable. The policy focus is on smoothing business cycles and using government action to prevent long, destructive slumps. From a Keynesian viewpoint, the short-run cost of adjustment can be worse than carrying on with the stimulus for a while. Austrians accept that stabilization matters, but they use Stein's law as the caution. Kicking the can just creates a bigger can. Temporary fixes let unsustainable trends grow larger. When the correction comes, it's harsher. Distorted signals cause malinvestment. Artificially low rates and persistent deficits mislead entrepreneurs about what policies are more sustainable, mislead entrepreneurs about what's profitable and sustainable. Debt and inflation are not free policy tools. Long-term reliance on either shifts risks to savers and future taxpayers and invites loss of confidence once limits are reached. Policy cannot manufacture unlimited real resources. Spending can reallocate purchasing power, but it cannot conjure more labor or natural resources out of thin air. Stein's law reminds us the timing is uncertain, but the inevitability of limits is not. Two examples are chronic fiscal deficits. A government runs large deficits year after year. Creditors tolerate it for a while, but at some point, they demand higher yields. Inflation rises, or taxes must increase sharply. The gradual problem becomes abrupt. Cheap credit inflates asset prices, housing stocks. Prices can rise a long time, but once buyers vanish, prices tumble fast. The boom stops and often reverses violently. Both are Stein's law in action. The unsustainable path eventually halts, and the halt is a fact of economic life, not a political choice. Don't rely on endless stimulus. Use stabilization sparingly and in ways that preserve price signals. Preserve sound money. Avoid persistent monetary expansion that hides limits. Encourage real savings and flexible markets. Let resources reallocate quickly when sectors falter. Plan for transition. If something looks unsustainable, pension promises, subsidies, start adjusting early. Smaller, phased corrections beat sudden shocks. In short, accept early limits and manage transitions before the stop becomes a crash. Real people suffer during adjustments, and no one likes sudden job loss or pension cuts. Austrians acknowledge that and favor policies that ease transitions. Retraining, portability of labor, targeted safety nets, but not indefinite. Subsidies that perpetuate unsustainable patterns. Stein's law doesn't excuse cruelty. It just says that pretending problems will never arrive makes the eventual human cost larger. Stein's law is simple and ruthless. If it can't go on forever, it won't. Use that as your first filter when you hear politicians promise never-ending solutions. Ask, where's the constraint? Who ultimately pays? If you want policy that leaves the economy resilient, start with sound money, honest prices, and early, realistic adjustments, not endless postponement. If you like this, subscribe, drop a comment, and share with a friend, and I'll catch you in the next video.